Welcome to Who Are You? Uninterrupted with Felicia Hatcher. Let's get started.
If you want to attract money and you don't have money, you have to be money, right? And so Arlen Hamilton, the great, amazing Arlen Hamilton, posted that last week on IG, and it has literally stuck with me since she posted it. You have to be money is the part that, and so I thought she was going to go in a different direction. And so that's probably why it has stuck with me. And I want to expand upon where I thought she was going to go with you have to be money, where I've seen her personally go, and then what I've learned in the process, right? And so what she said was, if you want to attract money and you don't have money, you have to be money. And so where she went was talking about you need to know your industry, your space, the problem that you're solving before you go pitch it for business or investment more than anyone else, right? And so I was surprised that she went in that direction, because when I saw the part, you have to be money if you want to attract money, where I thought she was going to go was leverage, right? Because that's what immediately came to mind. If you have to be money, to me, that means you have to have some sort of leverage in the absence of the resources that you currently have. What do you have to offer? How are you interesting? Is where I wanted to go, right? And so if you look at leverage, right, it's a sense of influence. There are other definitions of leverage. You can be over leveraged, and that's not a good thing, right? But if you look at the definition of influence, it's the ability, the ability to influence people or events, right? The definition of leverage, the ability to influence people or events. You have some leverage. You have something to be able to offer. And then if you look at the synonyms of leverage, influence, authority, pull, weight. You can throw weight around, right? You have something that people hold in high regard, rank, purchasing power, clout. These are all areas of leverage that you have. And so I don't know about y'all, and I don't know if anyone here has saw the posts last week, but what does it mean to be money? And it's interesting because when I wrote my book, Start Your Business on a Ramen Noodle Budget 10 years ago, that was literally the premise of it, right? And so when I saw her post, it immediately went to that, because I'm just if you don't have money, you still have all these other things that you could leverage in order to build the relationships, in order to almost enact theory of reciprocity, right? When you do something for someone, they immediately want to be able to return the favor in some sort of capacity. And that is your time to ask for the exact thing that you need, some sort of leverage. They now owe you something, right? Or they feel an obligation to return a good favor right back to you. You have something. Are you interesting and genuinely interested in the person that you are pitching to, right? What is it? Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's 90% of the book. Are you genuinely interested in the person? Are you asking questions? Are you being authentic? But then do you have something interesting? Do you have a level of access that you can leverage to build or create an opportunity or environment for someone else, right? You have more than you realize that you have in the absence of the direct funds that you need. And it reminds me, because I was having that conversation with some entrepreneurs, I think last week, that are looking to expand their business. And what else do you have, right? That you could leverage, that you can exchange, that you can barter, that you can build upon, that gives you the opportunity to be the money, right? How are you a conduit? How are you a vessel? All of these things are things to be considering. And I know I'm going a little high level around this, but her tweet, it's posts just kind of really got and it was it's profound in its simplicity, right? But it's just that last part of you have to be the money was when I say it has stuck with me all week, it has stuck with me all week, Arlen's post. And so, she went in the knowledge route, really knowing your industry, knowing your space, knowing your numbers, Like all of these things are super, super important. So she went on the knowledge side. Where I want to expand upon that is, yes, leverage, right? But then like applied knowledge. Can you actually apply what you know? Which I think is usually a lot of struggle from people that graduate. When they graduate, they're like, I want to do all these things. And like, but can you apply the knowledge that you have? Because just having the knowledge is one thing. But if you don't know how to apply it in a way that it solves problems for people, that it creates value for people, but more than anything, it solves problems and it solves problems really fast, it doesn't mean anything to them at the end of the day. And it doesn't really give you the leverage that you think you have, right? Um, and then it's about like relationships. Can you be a conduit? Can you be a connector? I like I remember when I worked in Minneapolis for the Timberwolves and the Lynx, and I was new to Minnesota. I didn't have any contacts. And I was tasked with putting together the 10th anniversary like rebranding campaign for the entire WNBA like organization, the Lynx, right? Like that was my primary job among like the marketing, the branding campaign, and increasing single game ticket sales. I'll never forget this guy, and I don't remember how I got introduced to him, but I feel like he was one of those people where there were like 5 or 6 people that I met with when I was trying to put this event together, and everyone was just like, "You need to know Richard Moody." I was like, "Who the heck is Richard Moody?" And like everyone that I met was like, "You need to know this guy." And Richard, um, super cool guy. I actually feel like I should reach out to him, but and I just remember Richard was a power connector, right? Unlike anyone I had ever seen, and I feel like to this day I still have not met anyone quite like Richard Moody, right? And what Richard did when I would go to events with him was literally like, when someone introduces you and they give you like the biggest tee up into whoever they're introducing you into, you're just like, man, I gotta go on the road with you. Like, I gotta take you everywhere because the introduction to whatever this person is, like pre-framed, set the tone and everything, right? Richard charged me because like he and his team ended up like doing the event and it was a really amazing event. But like that was some of the first lessons for me in like leverage and access and relationships, right? And introductions. Can you introduce someone to really cool or interesting people or places or things? Because that's a level of leverage that you need to have and you should have as well in order to be the money, right? Like Arlen talked about, you have to be the money if you don't have it yet. And so literally asset mapping your life, your experiences, the things that you have done, the things that you failed at and you've also learned some really big lessons in as well is a sense of leverage because you can save someone some money, some heartache, some pain, and some suffering as well, right? You have to be the money. Um, and so, like, how can you extract a currency out of that when you don't have the money yourself? And so Richard was that. And then step further, which was another lesson that I learned from this man, is like, put your team on, right? Like, I learned the biggest lesson in that because when he did, I think he may have done like 2 or 3 events for us, but above doing the event and executing the event, the biggest help for me and our organization at the time was literally that he knew someone that could do everything, right? Any and everything. And he literally brought his team on, right? There were no outside people. Like, if you're going to hire me, you're going to hire all of my team as well. And I was so fascinated by that. Like to this day, I mean, that man has taught me some of the biggest, he was very expensive, but he taught me some really, really big lessons in leverage and access and people, but like how you introduce someone and tee them up in rooms that they're just another face is absolutely, absolutely invaluable. And for that, it was more than whatever we paid him, right? Like those levels of introductions. And I had a pretty substantial, um, title or position in the in the Minneapolis community. I worked for the NBA, right? But I didn't know anybody, and Richard knew everyone. And so for Richard to kind of give you the stamp of approval and then kind of tee your introduction up in these unique and different rooms was worth everything, right? And so like, how can you do that? And it helps also level the playing field when you're pitching to big corporations, when you're pitching to investors, and you feel like this weird power dynamic, right? Like they have all the money, power, and influence. Like, what do I have? How do I get to a point where we can just have like human to human conversations or connections? It's like you also leveling up with the level of you being the money and saying, I can also bring these things to the table. Or being the money also means, and it also means being a return on the investment, right? Like that is you literally being the money. Like I am the vessel in which you are going to make your return. You're going to make your outsized returns. You're going to have a level of, and return on the investment, return on sacrifice, like whatever it is, you are going to get a return. And that is also you literally being the money, right? And so I don't know about y'all, if y'all saw that and that tweet last week and it went in the direction that it went for me, like mentally. If it did, like let me know. But good morning. For y'all that are just joining, I'm talking about, and I'm laughing because I've literally printed it off because my son, my amazing, brilliant son, and this is also why you should never work in bed. Stop working in bed. Because I was working in bed, I closed my laptop because he came and he started jumping on the bed. I closed my laptop and I felt like I had tucked it under the pillow so like he wouldn't hit it because it's an Apple laptop. That thing might hurt. And I opened it the next day and the screen was completely black. And there was like a little glimmer of light at the very bottom. I was like, crap, like my screen is cracked. So now I need to go get a new laptop or get it fixed or whatever. And so so at some point he must have jumped on it when he was jumping on the bed or jumped on a corner of it. And them things are so hard and so sensitive all at the same time. And so I printed it off in that way I can actually read it to you. But for those that are just joining, I'm talking about like this mental circus that I went through last week when I read this message that Arlen posted, actually from a tweet that she did 4 years ago, that if you want to attract money and you don't have money, you have to be money. And then she went on to say, no one's going to save us. We have to save ourselves. And the good news is that we can. And then she went on to write about like this tweet storm that she did 4 years ago, but like that was the impetus for it. And so when she talked about you having to be money, the direction that she went in was actually a completely different direction than I thought she was going to go in. And so what she went in, it was on like the knowledge part, right? Like you have to know your thing more than anyone else. And that part is important because you're also able to not only know your thing and be very confident and trust your ability, but you have to be able to educate people on why they should give an F, right? Why they should care and why they should care with their dollars, their resources, their influence, right? Their reputation, their phone calls, their social capital, their political capital. You have to educate people enough, but you have to be educated and trust yourself enough to be able to deliver the information in a way that they can receive it, right? There's that one thing. But then I was just like, when I saw be the money, like my mind immediately went to leverage before it went to knowledge. But both of those things are equally important, right? The knowledge, the applied knowledge, and like the leverage. And like then looking at the definition of leverage, which in this case, a noun, is a sense of influence, right? Like being the money is a sense of influence. Do you have a can you convene people if things go bad and go south, right? And we see that a lot with grassroots people and activists. They have a convening power where in the absence of the financial money to be able to throw around quickly to solve problems, they can convene people that have a power of scale that influences decisions, right? They are being the money in the sense of how they convene if things are going wrong. Then you also have people that can convene when things go right, right? Can you put together a curated room? Can you provide a level of access? Can you make certain introductions? Can you know what I mean? And so like that part of leverage is extremely, extremely important. Can you be the money, like she said, or you have to be the money, like Arlen said, right? And so, and then can you, like I said, can you introduce people to unique people and places and things or experiences that they would never normally have access to until they met you. That is something that you can do when you don't have the money, but you are actually being the money. Can you be the money, right? And then can you communicate the fact that you are the money in the absence of having the financial means of what you need, but literally sitting on the other side of somebody that does? And it like that part always made me think through this past week. Um, it made me think through Dale Carnegie's book. It is Dale Carnegie, right? How to Win Friends and Influence People. And he talked about being genuinely interested in people and then being genuinely interested and interesting yourself, right? And so I think oftentimes we want, right? Hey, so I can't take credit for that. That was something that Arlen tweeted last week, right? She said, if you want to attract money and you don't have money, you have to be the money, right? And she mostly talked about knowledge. And I'm just like, man, I felt like that was leverage. I feel like her life's work is about like leverage, being the money in the absence of having the capital that you need till you get the capital that you need. And then you're a whole other type of being the money, right? And it reminds me of like my mentor talks about like be, do, have, right? Like you have to be the thing to do the things that you want in order to have the things that you want to have, right? But the first like essence of that is you have to become the thing that you need to be in order to do the things that you need to do so that you can have the things that you want to have. And that is literally what she was talking about as well, right? But when I was thinking about how to communicate it, it's like so often we are in situations, we're in events, the world is open back up, and Lord have mercy, there are 1,000,001 events every single day of the week. And so when we are at these events and when we are meeting people, like, are we genuinely interested in who they are or just what they can do for us? And that's really hard. That's awful. Definitely don't do that, right? In my mastermind group of the women that I work with, I'm constantly telling them, they're like, hey, I want to this corporation, or I want to speak at this event, or I want to pitch for funding with this company. And like, do you follow them? Like, do you follow them on social media? Do you have Google Alerts set up? Like, are you genuinely interested in the person that you said that you want to do business with? Because people understand, they know that, right? And if you're genuinely interested, that's also a way that you can be the money, right? You can correlate two different areas or industries into one. You can help them see things from the outside because they're internal and they're inside. Like being able to help someone see something outside, right? From a 50,000 foot view, 100, whatever the saying is, like there's a lot of leverage in that within itself that allows you to be the money as well. And so, y'all, I dropped quite a few things on this, right? I think I went probably much deeper than maybe Arlen was intending with that tweet. I don't know. But just to go back, right? She talked about if you don't have money, but you need to attract money. You literally have to be the money. You have to be the currency. You have to have the influence. And I think that's where like a lot of us get like influencers and influence confused. But like that's what I appreciate about like the influencer space that has come out of social media over the past, I don't know, 5 to 7, 10 years or whatever, is literally you have a group of people that were not connected to audiences unless they were working with a mass media conglomerate that literally said, through creating content, being myself, or being entertaining, I am going to amass a following without the money, right? Without the red cameras and without like the media attention because they're not telling stories of people that look like me or have the same lived experiences. And I'm literally going to turn myself into a set of currency that can be leveraged for money, for larger opportunities, or for whatever thing that they want. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to become an influencer, but everyone needs to have leverage so that you can literally be the money. And so whenever you're meeting with someone, you're pitching something, you're building something, they understand that the pathway to whatever they want, the best pathway, the easiest pathway, the quickest pathway, and the pathway where there can be shared wins together is literally understanding that you are the money and you are the conduit, right? In order to get from one point to the other point. And I think when you remember that, you approach conversations so much differently. You value what you're doing so much differently as well. And I mean differently, not in the negative, but definitely like in the positive of of coming up, of just like, I am the money, right? I need money, right? Yes, I need money. But like that doesn't the need that I want doesn't negate the fact that I am the conduit and I am the money, and there's a leverage on the other, there's a leverage currently, and there's a greater leverage on the other end of that, because I realize what I literally bring to the table and how people can extract that value, but how I can also attract and extract that value as well, if you literally just remember that like you are the money, right? And so, oh, listen, I not only saw the tweet, I literally printed off the tweet, right? And so, partly because my son, my 4-year-old, he broke my computer screen, but then the other part of that is just like, you have to, like, I have to incorporate this with my team in some sort of way, and it's probably going to get incorporated into some keynote speech along the way. But when I say it literally snatched my edges in a way that like I was literally thinking and processing and putting thoughts together around that like all week. I'm like, you gotta be the money. I was like, literally, that was what I was trying to explain in Start Your Business on a Ramen Noodle Budget, right? Like, if you don't have the financial means to grow your business really fast, you can literally create an MVP, and there's all these other things that you have in the absence of not necessarily having the thing that you have. You know, people, if you do an asset map, people can make introductions for you. You can be the introduction. You can be the conduit. You can be the connector. Like, there's all these things that you can embody in the moment to be the money, to have the leverage. Like, I don't know how else to say that than all the, I think, 7 or 8 ways in which I said that, right? And then thinking through like, what is the leverage, or what is being the money afford you? And then what does it afford other people? And I think we just don't take enough time to think through those things, right? Y'all know I'm always talking about like the quality of your questions determine the quality of your life. So ask bigger, richer, more expensive, more expansive questions. And that's a quote from Tony Robbins. Like, what does it afford you to be the money, right? Like, if you are the money, the conduit in which things happen or do not happen, because all of us have that leverage, right? And that ability, some bigger than others, right? But in your family, in your work life, in your business, and in your community, you are a conduit to something, or some things, or quite a few things, if you stand in that power enough to realize it. But some of it requires you to literally take a step back and say, well, who do I know? Right? Who knows me? Who knows what I do? Who knows that I can be a conduit to this or that? I think the best, and told my brother, we were having this conversation a few weeks ago about something that he was working on, but I was just like, if you have not watched The Black Godfather on Netflix, about Clarence Avant, that is, to me, literally the best example of that tweet from the last part of that tweet from Arlen, of that you have to be the money. And when that man talks about his, I think was he from Detroit? I don't remember. I don't want to chop that up, but like his story and like how he was able to build upon to be literally one of the most influential people in Hollywood, in politics, or whatever. But then, that story that he tells about being in the room, I think with Michael Jackson and McDonald's or Sony. I am so chopping it up. I need to go back and watch it. And someone turned to him. There were like 4 or 5 corporations all trying to work with this one artist, or whoever the artist was. I feel like it was Michael Jackson. And then at some point, all the lawyers, all the people turned to Clarence and asked him, who does he represent? Like, what company are you here for? And he was just like, all of y'all, right? Like, I am the person that got all of y'all in the room so that we can figure this thing out. He was the money and he was the leverage, right? And he still is the money. He's definitely the money now, but more than anything, he is the leverage. And so before you can have the things that you want, before that you can be, do the things that you want, you literally have to become the thing that you want to be, right? You have to become the thing that you want to be. And so in this instance, if you want to attract the money that you need, and you want to, and you don't have the money that you currently need, but you need to attract a certain level of financial resources, and then you have to become the money. And I think the best way to do that, and I'll end on this note, the best way to be able to do that is literally take a step back today and like create an asset map. Who do I know? Who knows me? What are all the things that I've created? Hey, what are all the things that I created? What are the things that I can create? What are the things that I want to do? Right. And once I understand what it means for me to be the money, right, or become the money, because I feel like it's an iterative process. What what does it afford me? What do I want to happen as a result of that? And so you just enter this week, you enter conversations, you enter pitch meetings, you enter any and everything with a trust and confidence in yourself that you could be the money and then attract every single thing that you need, right? And so confidence, the root word of confidence means to confide, and confide means to trust. And so having the confidence to be the money, to attract the things that you need, literally means to trust yourself, trust your ability, trust that you have done this before and you can and will do it again, and trust that you can produce results over and over and over again. And so, and if anything else today, y'all just remember to be the money. And so that's knowledge, that's applied knowledge, and that's leverage. See y'all later.